Hello, buddies. Welcome to Barn Burner. It's yet another edition in our long-form, sit-down conversational visit BS type series of interviews, I guess, if you want to call it that, as we are here in the Tower Chrysler Studios. Tower Chrysler, Southern Alberta's voted number one, the favorite among all of them. And there's a bunch of them. And these guys are number one, as chosen by you. And who am I to argue with you, the good people that take in this podcast? We appreciate you. We are sitting down today, and we've broken it out over three segments, because it was another one of those things. We sat down with a friend of the show, a guy that's been buddies for a long time, and one thing leads to another, and the next thing you know, you're well over an hour. I'll break it up for you is what we're going to do for you today. It is Matt Stajan. He, of course, the Ontario boy, drafted by the Leafs, plays for the Leafs. Oh, Cinderella story. But there are some twists and turns along the way, as we'll find out from Matt. The trouble is, you'll have a hard time finding anyone with a bad thing to say about Matt Stajan. It's really, it's frustrating, actually, when people are as nice as Matt. It makes you feel terrible about yourself, or at least I feel terrible, but I feel terrible about myself. It's not Matt's fault. Anyway, moving on. Lots to get through. Everyone's got a story, and Matt has a compelling one to share. Highlights, tragedy, all of it. And we're going to get into it over the course of this interview as Rhett and I sat down with Matt. In a way, we start with segment one in present day, before we start to go back. Matt has been the assistant coach, one of the assistants for the Calgary Hitmen for a couple of years, getting behind the bench, dipping his toe in the coaching pool. He's going to kind of take more of a skills development coach kind of a role, won't be traveling, won't be quite as involved, but will still be there on a very regular basis with the Calgary Hitmen. No more five-star hotels, no charter flights. It's life on the bus, that sort of thing. Like all of a sudden back in Belleville for Matt Stajan. Enough of me babbling, right? Let's get to it. This is a good one. You're going to like it. We sit down with Matt Stajan, and it starts now. Retirement looks good on you. You look younger now than you did when you were playing. How does that work?
Not many people say that, but
lots of color in your face. You look healthy. Matt Stajan, looking all right, buddy.
Yeah.
Well, stem cells? You're doing stem cells, injections, you go like all kinds of.
No, keep it cleaner.
Does the body feel better or worse?
No, the body does not feel better. But I've been trying to take care of myself. So but for sure you're starting like I'll go play baseball with my kid, throw the ball around, like your shoulders.
What hurt? I'm trying to remember if you had anything major when you were playing. Was there things that were individual things that stood out? I mean, we all get bumped around, but
yeah, I was fortunate. I had a ton of concussions, but my memories, if you ask my wife, isn't always there. But honestly, I was pretty lucky. I had both MCLs, shoulders, but I never had like a major surgery, high ankle. So just kind of wear and tear like everybody has. So I can't complain when I see some of the other guys. But yeah, we'll see. I'm turning 40 in December, so
it's all downhill.
That's what they say. It'll be a fun decade, they say.
Yeah, don't listen to us with 40 is the new 70 or whatever it is. But no, I was going to ask you, because I know, just kind of getting ready for this and looking, there was a couple of years there where leg injury, high ankle or whatever it was, you're healthy, and then you had some struggles to stay healthy, and then you near the end you're actually all right.
Yeah. And I don't know why that was. They were kind of, my injuries were always, when I did get hurt, I was very good with not pulling stuff, or everybody has some strains, but when I missed time, it was either like a knee on knee hit and I tore my MCL, or going to the board's funny. You get a high ankle sprain, shoulders happen, you get hit funny. But yeah, I honestly, I think I got smarter as I got older too, with the way I trained. And a lot of my training in the off season was about injury prevention, and just making sure that you get through a season, as opposed to just getting as strong as you can. And then, you get these huge injuries.
How much did training change over the course of your career?
Big time. Like now it's all agility and power, and just the way, like when we went, and you would have been even worse. But like my first junior training camp, like go lift 225-pound dumbbell or bench press. Yeah. I couldn't do it once. Like I could barely do a bar on each side, a weight on each side. So it changed. The biggest thing is the warm up. Like,
Yeah, you do.
It's like a 45-minute plyometric warm up to get yourself ready just to do your weights now. And that's every day. And that's just how it changed, where back in the day, it was just like, you get right into it,
Yeah.
a couple minute stretch, ready to go. Let's go do some sprints.
Fans don't appreciate that, right? Because we sit here and we'll watch, and it just popped into my head about Lucic. Well, he doesn't fight anymore. How come they don't play? You get older, you become a little less inclined to want to do that sort of thing. And the guys you're fighting or going up against, they are still they're getting younger or staying in their early 20s. It's getting older happens a lot earlier, it seems like. It's a young man's game right now.
Yeah. Well, Gio was the oldest guy in the league this year, was he not? And he's 39. So I'm like, when I first came in, like I had probably 3 or 4. I probably had like 6 or 7 on Toronto in their late 30s to 40s on my team. Now you see, I don't think there's any 40-year-olds in the league. So it's, yeah.
What were you, 32? Around 32 when you were done?
Nope, 34 in the NHL. And then I played 1 year in overseas. But now if you're 30, they make you feel ancient. In the game,
part of that is how good the kids are too, though, right? Like their kids coming up at 18, they're going to jump in and be productive.
For sure. Well, it's such a fast game, and those kids are faster, right? It's just, you just slow down as you get older, and the kids are coming in faster. The hard part is it's the brains, right? Those young kids come in and they don't think the game, or they take a while to learn, or some never learn. But that's the biggest difference. But the game's so fast, so you're gonna take a player that's making league minimum around their entry level that can skate and hope that he can adjust to the NHL game, thinking it. So that's how it changed. As I'm just happy I got my last deal. 4 years.
When we started, you hardly did a warm up, and you'd watch some guys would do it, and you're like, "What are you doing?" Like,
yeah.
Oh, so true.
And now probably a lot of the guys' warm ups are, like you said, 45 minutes. Like the warm up is the biggest piece of the whole day.
It is, and everybody you always see like, oh, the guys are playing soccer before, but that's just a part of getting yourself moving. And then there's so much more that goes in, and everybody has their own routine. So game day is different for everybody. You still have the odd guy who plays soccer and then goes and gets his coffee and then goes right to his stall and gets ready. But when you look at those guys, and I look at the guys that did that, like their careers were shorter, because they would eventually get an injury or things would start bugging them. So, and there's like way more medical guys now. Like everybody's getting fixed up before the game. There's chiros and masseuses, and everybody has their routine. Like back in the day, there was one guy for the whole team. If you're a young guy, you're not even touching.
Maybe get to you.
Yeah.
If no one else has any, like if there's no hangnails, you can maybe come in this room.
And even then, it was.
What were you going to get when you went in the room?
Yeah,
you get a bag of ice, and what do you want me to do for you?
And you're gonna get chirped by
Killed.
by all the older
abuse.
Guys.
Ed Jovanovski, my rookie year in Florida, was playing 20 minutes plus a night, and kicking ass. And it was late in the year, and we've got home late. We were on a road trip, got home late, landed. So it was an optional skate the next morning, and Jovo took the option. And before practice started, the coaches had called him and said, "Who in the do you think you are? Get your ass down here." So you weren't allowed to take days off or sit in the training room.
No.
There was nothing to do in the training room anyway. Nowadays, you get things that you can.
And they encourage you to take days off now. They don't want guys to skate.
So you're around the junior game. For those that don't know, Stage is assistant coach with the Calgary Hitmen. How, I guess, in that vein, how different is it? How different are the guys? I mean, I've got boys who are teenagers. I mean, teenage boys are dumb. I just wonder from the kids themselves, like you say, the brains, hockey and otherwise, and just the game and all that, the strategy and all that. How has it changed from your Belleville days?
Yeah, it's completely different. The boys are still boys. They're teenagers, and you're dealing with ultimately 23 kids.
Yeah.
But they have everything at their fingertips, and I don't think they realize that. It's just they're still young, and but they get video, like they get breakdown of every shift if they want to see. Us in junior, like there was none of that. Like it was the VCR switch. We would rarely do video. And then there's just even at intermission, like we can as coaches bring the kids into the room and show them clips like this is, or put it in the dressing room for the team to see. This is the adjustment we need to make. So it's just the biggest thing, the hockey part's the hockey part, like the whole hockey world's transformed, and everything's at your fingertips. It's how you deal with the kids, and you're starting to see it in the NHL because it's become younger and younger. It's how do you get these kids to be the best they can be, and a lot of them you have to be hard on, but there's also a fine line because you don't want them to shut down. So it's finding that balance, and every kid's different, and it's a learning process for coaches. Like you can some kids need to be told and held accountable like all the time. Yeah. And then some you have to kind of ease your way in, and otherwise they just shut down. So that's the biggest difference. Where back in the day it was, if you weren't doing something right, you were getting reamed right away. Your coaches were breaking sticks, putting them in your face. Like I remember you were getting sat out if you did things that you weren't supposed to. It was just ruthless back then. And that's the way I was brought up in my time, and Rhett would have been. And now you can't do that. And sometimes I think the kids need that, but you just can't. You have to go about it a different way.
You've always talked about video, and I think some of us kind of tongue in cheek, and you laugh about spending too much time in the video. But I wonder, iPads on the bench and having so much video, are you seeing the kids, especially in junior, to show them whether the mistake or whatever it was, are they able to then compute that and then apply it on the ice? Or is it just kind of, okay, I see what I did wrong, and then you did it again, I'll show you a second time or third time? I just wonder, there's so much video, is it actually working on the ice in a short amount of time, like during a game?
It should. Like that's where you learn about the kids and honestly their hockey sense. Yeah. Like the video, like cutting it isn't the best to do. Like you have to do it, and it's a good way, but it's such a good tool to teach because they can see themselves, and then you can hold them accountable. Like, look what you did, and you show them, and you hope that they can apply what you're teaching them. But it's the kids who are coachable that will grasp that and go out there, and you'll see the adjustments. And then the kids that keep making this mistakes over and over, you're kind of in the back of your head, I don't know if this kid's going to be able to make it and adjust to where he needs to be, because every level
you want to show him that, we didn't need to show that shit. That's not going to do
it. It happens. Like there's times where we showed kids the same thing over and over, and then it's like, maybe we sit with this one out.
Pat him on the head. Yeah. But try harder.
But the game, it's such a read and react game. So, the video, you can stop and you can show things, but you also have to understand it's a fast game. So that's the part with the players. Like we know it's faster, but you're going to get better and go to the next level. It's going to get faster and faster. So you got to process what we're teaching you, while the pressure's on, while you have the puck, while your teammates are getting open for you, got to process all that. So like, we're just showing you, and you got to take it and be better with it. Like that's just kind of what you do when you're showing systems, like where it's the whole 5-man unit, you show them to the team. That's something we hope, we show the team, but the players can hold themselves accountable. You got to rely, it's not a one-man sport. Like a centerman needs their winger to be in a certain area. You need to support the puck. So there's all these different factors. And, when back in the day, it was not like that at all. Coaches were getting information from other coaches. They're calling, what do these guys do? Where now we can actually watch who we're playing and see tendencies and then pass that information on. And you hope that the good players do take that in, and not the good players, but the smart players. And the other ones are kind of, it takes time, and sometimes they never get it. And that's why you'll never make it to the next level. That's the truth.
Village Honda is a proud supporter of Barn Burner. You can find them in the Northwest Auto Mall, or check them out online at villagehonda.com. Village Honda's got new Hondas arriving daily. Drive away in your new Honda from Village Honda, your dealership for life in the Northwest Auto Mall and at villagehonda.com.
The Hearing Loss Clinic has been helping change people's lives for the better since 1993. At the Hearing Loss Clinic, it's never been about hearing impairment. It's been about empowering you to be socially active, more connected with those around you, and confident in every aspect of your life. People of any age can suffer from hearing loss, and studies have shown that serious health risks have been linked to untreated hearing loss. They have 9 locations to serve you, 4 in the city of Calgary. Make a healthy choice and book an evaluation today at hearingloss.ca.
Do you find that the kids are coaching my oldest 14 and kids like that? The skill level is staggeringly good, like stunningly good, but the hockey sense isn't always there. Like I'm almost wondering if like the skills that they're learning, second to none, best it's ever been. But what we've forgotten to do is teach them how to play the game.
100%. And at the junior level, you hope that they have that. And that's kind of one thing, we talked about as coaches is these kids coming up, their individual skill is better than any of probably what my skill was in the NHL. Like you see what these kids can do. I'm like, but they don't know where to be. And that like the give and goes like that. That's one thing we talk about every day. Give and goes. You're not going to stick handle through 5 guys. You need to give and go. You need to find space. You need to pass and jump to space. And they don't teach that very well in minor hockey. It's kind of luck of the draw. Who your coach is in minor hockey goes a long way. And then because we try and teach at the junior level, but it's competitive. Like you don't have a bunch of time to put into it. Exactly. And as coaches, you're going to play the players that can do it. So and you can't emulate a game. You can do game like stuff, small area games, but
part of the issue though too is you can sign a kid up for a skills session.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of parents that are going to pay to have a give and go session. Do you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of guys out there that have these unbelievable skills session skates and this and that. And they teach the guys, you're toe dragging, you're going through, you're zipping all around the ice. And it's why the kids are so skilled nowadays, but they've put so much into that. We've forgotten. I talk about it all the time on this show. Since when did the front of the net become a shitty area for a defenseman to stand and recover? Right? Like they got guys, they leave the front of the net open. I'm like, where in the H are you going?
Oh yeah.
Like what? Yeah. Where are we going? Somebody be in front, please. But the point being, they forget to teach hockey and they teach skill.
And like we're even coaching like my 8-year-old now and that team, like the skill is there. It's the passing and the give and goes in the hot. And we're trying to teach them habits away from just your solo skill so that when you're older, you're going to be ahead of everybody. And it's just a thing. And you're seeing it at the NHL level. Guys are making it there. Like it's taken Sam Bennett a while. When he came to the Flames, he was very, sporadic and could skate and was great at what he did, but he was a hard guy to play with for guys who would play with him. And he slowly, has learned, but it took some time. So it's a thing. And realistically, the reason is because they all go onto Instagram and they see these highlights and it looks cool. But like the old story is like, we'll have a kid on our team with the Hitman. He'll toe drag in his own end. He'll be the last guy back and get around a guy. And the whole bench will be like, oh, what a play. And we're like, no, that's so unnecessary because if that gets poked away, it's a grade A scoring chance. Like it's just the process, but they're more worried about like, that's going to be, I can put that on my Instagram and it's going to get likes. And I'm like, okay, well, that's not going to get you to the next level. So it's just getting through to them, but they're boys, right? So it's hard.
So for you getting into coaching, it's just Stajan. He seems like a guy that would be a good coach, and that would be a natural for you. It's another thing to commit. I think I was talking to you right when so are you doing all just home games or are you going? It's like, no, if you're in, you're all in. So it's not for the money. It's about the love of the game and be around the guys, but it's also getting back on the bus and it's hotels and it's not totally glamorous. And it's not, you don't need to do that. What's it been like for you to get back on those buses and Prince George and those trips into the US?
The hardest part is the commitment. Like now having kids at an age where I want to coach them and help them. That's the hardest part. But I've learned so much the last 2 years just being on the other side, and it's just learning the business. Like in junior, you're kind of right there seeing how everything operates. It's not an NHL team, so you have, Trent, the other assistant, does a lot of the meal prep and hotel stuff. Like there's not an OB to do all that stuff. Like
where's the team service guy?
Yeah.
So he'll the odd time, I'm like, yeah, give me a few restaurants to call, but he does the majority of it, and I try and help out. But it's I've enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed a lot of it. But it's just the commitment that's the hardest part. And
Being
making
away
decisions.
from the family.
Exactly. And
we talk about it all the time.
yeah, and who was I talking recently? I'm like, a lot of the guy, and whatever people want to think of this, but a lot of the guys who are like committed right away after their career, and it might not be true in a fact, but I'm like, a lot of them have all daughters. A lot of the guys who write in, and
It's true.
like they because that's their way to get away from, that's what they're used to.
It's not even get away. Sorry, I'm going to
Not get
stop you
away,
there because I'm the same way, and I've
Yes.
seen it lots too. But it's like you just said, you want to coach your 8-year-old son who's
Yes.
playing hockey because you feel like you can actually contribute in that. Where if I had a daughter and they can play whatever sport they want, but if they're not into hockey and they're into dance,
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm not helping.
Exactly. No, it's true.
And the mother is just naturally more inclined to want to be involved in that. So it's
Yeah.
how
Yeah,
it goes.
So I'm kind of at a stance on what I want to do, because it's like, okay, if I want to commit to this coaching, you got to commit. And if you want to build your way up to the next level or wherever you want to get to, or it's commitment, like years and years.
There's a spot down the street here
Yeah.
just open up. You can do
That's
it.
right. Yeah.
Yeah. But so that's the, like, do you put it on hold for a bit? Do you wait till your kids are older? But I love the coaching. Actually, Reggie said to me when I retired, that was his advice to me. He's like, you'll never find the competition we had in the NHL in life anywhere. Like the top level of what we do, we're never going to be able to relive that as professional athletes that are now retired. So how you get that back, you really can't. Like men's league, you can't, it just doesn't happen. But coaching and maybe being in management and being a part of a team, you get a little bit of that back. You feel the fire again, but it's not the same as playing, but it's as close as you're going to get. And I've enjoyed that part of it, especially this year with the team and going to playoffs and preparing. And like, you get into it big time. Like you get into it coaching your 8-year-old kids. So it's just, that's the only way we can,
I don't know what you're talking
we
about.
can. So,
You know what though, man? Don't need to speak for you. I feel like Rhett and I have spent hours talking about that from his perspective. It's not about, I want to win a cup. I mean, yeah, of course, but you miss that, the camaraderie of the boys, the competition, and then there's the pull of, well, I want to, it's my kid's game. He's got a big game tonight.
Yeah.
Kind of want to be there. It's that you almost can't have both. And it's the pull in those directions that ultimately is the hardest thing.
It is. And it's, it's how you figure that out. Like your kids are only in that age gap for so long. Right. So we'll see. We're kind of trying to figure that out for myself and with me and my wife. And, but I always see myself in the game. So I'll be involved with the Hitmen, and we'll see what kind of commitment this fall brings. So, but it's been really good. I've learned a lot from the staff with the Hitmen.
So for you, you're one of the guys, I got to admit, I'm kind of surprised is in Calgary. You were saying you're building a house. This is home. Toronto guy, played in Toronto, family in Toronto. It just felt like, not that you were, you came to Calgary, and we'll talk about your career as a Flame, but it just seemed like you're an Ontario guy. Why are you here? How did it all come to be that this has been home for you and your wife?
Well, yeah, we're Albertans now. So, what a big thing was, once our kids were born, that you always have a connection here, but just, we were here for so long. Like it ended up being 8 years when we went overseas, and then we came back and we have conversations. And at first we were leaning towards probably moving back to Ontario, and then we'd go visit, and it's great to see everybody. And that's the hardest part is another, pulling each direction with family. Like, but every time we go back, we have a condo in Toronto where we can stay and we enjoy our time there, but it's so busy. It's like, it's just so busy there. Like
Like the
takes you-
pace of life
the
or
pa-
your
the pa-
personal
both,
family?
like both, and
Yeah.
and it'd be nice to just hop in the car and go see grandma and grandpa. Like we would love that, to go see, our brothers and sisters and nieces and nephews. But just the lifestyle out there, just go, 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 go. And that's all we knew when I played in Toronto. I grew up in Toronto. We were in Ontario. And then coming out here, it was like, we finally started staying out here in the summers. We'd go back for 3 weeks and stay here most summer. We're like, this is awesome. And then you start going to the mountains, and then you see some of the, you're lucky enough to get a lot now that you see the mountains. You're like, oh, this would be a nice place to live and, build your dream home and raise your kids. And
It's a different style of
big time,
right? Like it's a different
Yeah.
lifestyle.
It's a huge different lifestyle. And we just enjoyed it here, and we just made the decision. And COVID happened. So a lot of thinking during that, and during COVID, you're stuck at home. And there's so much to do here. And kept going back, what would we be doing if we were living in Ontario?
Call Peter Klein at McLeod Law at 403-254-3864 or go online at mcleod-law.com. You can also find them on social media at McLeod Law LLP. You know Peter Klein at McLeod Law, personal injury guy, but also he's the go-to guy in the city for your disability insurance claims. If your long-term disability insurance company is refusing to pay insurance benefits to you, contact Peter. He's going to help you out. He'll get you the disability benefits you paid for and you deserve. He'll get you your peace of mind back, the peace of mind you paid for.
It's time to discover or rediscover the legendary St. Eugene Golf Resort and Casino. Planning a golf trip, a romantic getaway, or maybe just some tranquility away from the city, St. Eugene is the answer. Hotel, championship golf course, casino, spa, restaurants, all of it nestled in the spectacular Rocky Mountains and just minutes outside of Cranbrook, BC. Visit their website, steugene.ca, and experience the history and heritage of the St. Eugene Golf Resort and Casino. And it's interesting because you were a guy that you grew up there and then started your career there. It's not like somebody who's from small town, Saskatchewan, and then is like plopped into downtown Toronto. That hustle and bustle was kind of part of your upbringing.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong. I think if we did move back to Ontario, I think we'd have no problem adjusting. Sure. We put the positive negatives to each situation, and we like it out here. And our plan is to just go visit, like hop on a flight. If we want to see family, we go for 3-4 days, and we go at Christmas or key times and in the summer, and we still get to see everybody, and they can come visit us. So that's kind of where we're at and what we decided on. And it just feels like home here. And I'll tell you the truth. Yeah. Like when we go back to Toronto, it doesn't feel like home anymore for us. Our kids were born here. This is where our family really started when we got married and everything.
He was the Toronto darling.
Very much
Mississauga boy playing his hockey in Toronto, and then the draft is in Toronto, and the Leafs draft the Toronto boy. It was a Cinderella, a fairy tale story for you. What do you remember? Did you feel like the Leafs were on you, as like you had a good feeling about them because they took Alex Steen in round 1? Did you think there was a chance you'd get into that round 1, or how did that draft?
Did you want to go there?
Well, I was a huge Leaf fan growing up, so I was excited, but I did not have one interview with the Leafs. And during that, I went to the combine. I was ranked 18th my draft year in North America. So I thought maybe I'd sneak into the first round, maybe early second, but I just kept sliding. My interview process was probably terrible. I was also scrawny teenager. I wasn't the biggest guy. And I just kept dropping. And then I was like, and you'd see guys in your league that go, and you're like, okay, like this is,
now I'm depressed.
Yeah. Now you get a little bit rattled. And back then there was the big signing bonuses. So every round you went later, there's a big chunk of money, when you're 20 years old. So, you wait. And then late second round, Toronto took me out of nowhere. Like I had not one, didn't even send me a package to like fill out, questionnaire or anything. It was, they drafted me, and, their player development guy at the time, I played with his kids, so they kind of knew of my family. So I think that had a big part of it. But I guess they had me ranked right after Alex Steen. So if he had gone earlier, they were going to take me in the first round from what they told me after. So they were happy to get me, and I was really happy to be there at the time, and I loved my time there. Like I thought it was so cool playing for that franchise. It was a tough time though. Like we had a little success in the playoffs my first year, and then the lockout happened, and it was just that salary cap came in 39 million. You trade all your older guys, and we didn't have any elite prospects, to tell you the truth. We didn't have a top 10
because
pick.
the Leafs had traditionally paid for guys once they got to free agency.
Exactly.
They're one of the teams that could go and get them. So it was a different way of building.
Exactly. And that's what they were starting to do in the late 90s. And
yeah,
I think you would have played them with Buffalo in the conference final there. And yeah, they'd bring guys in, and Gilney was there. Like I got to play 1 year with all those guys, like 5-6 Hall of Famers. And then all of a sudden it was like, okay, like they went a different direction. We missed the playoffs by a point 3 years in a row through that time. So you weren't getting a high-end draft pick, and you were missing the playoffs. It was kind of, looking back, it sucked. You're playing meaningful hockey, but it would have been nice to maybe get a Sidney Crosby early there and build within that way. But hey, you can't control that. You control every shift you play, and it's the old saying, but it's true. And then you're just a number, right? Right? Like if there's a situation where they can move on from you and bring in someone they think's better fit, that's the way it was. But I honestly felt like Matt Sundin left. We did not have any leadership in that room because all the older guys had gone. Thomas Caberlet, he's kind of a mute. Like he's a very quiet guy. Couldn't really speak English. Like he was our veteran guy who had been there for a while, and Nick Antropov, who was, sure. So like I felt like I took on a big leadership role when Sundin left. We're there.
And you're 21, 22.
Yeah, and I was young, but I learned. But I was the guy always talking in the media for a few years. I'd be the one getting into it with Ron Wilson, and and it was. But I loved it. Like it was great. Just we weren't a good team. Like we just didn't have the skill and the team that could go anywhere. So I knew changes were coming, and then I was becoming a UFA, and just like that, you're gone.
Yeah. Well, you had that wild start because wasn't it in a span of like 5 days? You're in Belleville, St. John's, Toronto. You finished juniors. I'd love to play in the NHL someday. You didn't know it was going to be later that week. What was that? How did that all work? Your season ends with Belleville, and then it's a roller coaster.
It was a blur because so you lose in junior, right after you lose in the playoffs in junior, it's like party city.
Yeah.
And we all had Mohawks, so like we're rolling around small town Belleville, and then my agent's like, they want to sign you and they want you to go to St. John's to play a few games for the end of the year. So obviously I'm not going to turn that down. It's so you party for a couple of days, and then you're on a flight to St. John's, and they had a game Friday, but they weren't making the playoffs. So I was only going out for one game. So they flew me out there for one game, and that was their last game. So after that game, they had their year-end stuff. So we're on George Street, just, I'm out with like Mark Morrow and all these older guys, and they're just feeding me drinks, and, the young guy just came up. So it was a night. And I honestly, the Leafs played the next day at Saturday at home. It was the last game of the year. They made the playoffs, but no one wants to play that game. None of the veterans did. And I didn't even have a cell phone or maybe I did, but I had a message on my hotel room from Mike Penny, who was the assistant GM, but basically because Pat Quinn was the GM coach, and I missed his call in the morning. Like you're out all night, and then I woke up at like 11, and I had to call him. I just got the message. He's like, you got to catch this flight. We missed the 11 o'clock flight. You're catching this 2 o'clock flight, St. John's time, hour and a half time change. And he's like, jump on this flight. There's a chance you're playing for the Leafs tonight, depending on one of the older guys if they want to play. So I like rush out of there. I get as much sleep as I can on the plane and land in Toronto. I landed at 5 o'clock for a 7 o'clock Saturday night game. So I didn't get to the ACC until like probably I remember walking in with my hockey bag. I had my shaved head. You could see a red mohawk still in my shaved head. Like I had a huge scar on my face from getting stitches in junior playoffs. And there's all the people coming to the game already. And it was in the club level. So you see all these suits, and you walk in, and the guy, as soon as I walked in, their trainer grabbed my equipment, set it up beside Ed Belfour. He wasn't playing that night, and I just had to go get ready. And I was just kind of in awe because I went to one training camp with them, I guess, but I was sent down after like 2 days, 3 days. And it just happened like that. And yeah, I had lots of nights out that week.
Yeah.
So almost probably better, right? You just you're on adrenaline.
And then score that night. Was it Top Shelf? Is that,
Yeah, Top Shelf. Yeah.
something like that?
It was like Rhett's goal in Phoenix or wherever he scored it.
A turnover by Chris Phillips, right in the slot, a pizza onto the stick of Matt Stajan. He beats Martin Prushek for his first NHL goal.
Yeah, lost the face-off clean in the neutral zone. And back then the center pushed through, right? You never see that anymore. And yeah, it was like it was meant to be. Like I look back at them like, what are the chances? So
how many people are at the game? Family-wise, friends-wise?
It was such a tight tournament. Yeah,
like,
my parents got to go. My late grandpa got to go, and his company had season tickets for the Leafs since back in the day. So my sister got to go. Like there's probably 6 or 7, 8 family friends, and then actually 3 or 4 of my teammates from Belleville were able to go because one of them was Wolf Paymont's son. So they came with cowboy hats, and they were still on their week-long bender after the season for Belleville. So it was awesome. Kind of looking back, we lost the game, but I had like friends out there partying.
Yeah.
I guess the game didn't mean anything, but it was a memorable week. And and from there, it gave me honestly confidence that I could play on that team the next year, which I was able to do.
And you did make the playoffs, right? You got into 3 playoff games.
Yeah.
That year.
Yeah. So that year we traded for Ron Francis, Brian Leach,
Right.
Clark Wilm he was in the minors, but he came up for playoffs. And then, we had made a lot of trades. So I went down for one day at the trade deadline for a roster spot, and then came right back up, and there's no salary cap. So going into the playoffs, I wasn't in the top 12, and Owen Nolan had gotten hurt, and then Sundin got hurt game 4 in Ottawa. So I got to play games 5, 6, and 7 against Ottawa. And then the second round came, we were playing Philly, and Pat Quinn said, we're going to put, the more veteran grizzled Clark Wilman for you.
So then he buried one on a breakaway right into what's-his-name's chest.
Like, I remember, yeah.
Because he'd been battling to get back in the league, Wilman had. And he has this opportunity in the playoffs. I think it was to win the game.
I think it was.
But it would have been a big goal regardless.
Game 5, yeah.
And I'm like, oh, here he goes. He's going to get his chest. Oh,
yeah. Wilmer was great though. He was on our team the next few years too. Yeah. So, but that was that experience, and then the lockout happened. So, but honestly, looking at that lockout, we all missed a full season of NHL hockey. But for me, I got to go to St. John's for a year, play 22 minutes a night, every situation. So looking back, I'm like, it was probably really good for my development. Where the year before I was playing 12 minutes, 10 minutes, and I don't know how much I would have developed. But it'd have been harder too if you'd have gone to training camp and you didn't make it, right? Like you assume you're going to, but there's no guarantees with that. So exactly,
you got to go down without feeling the whatever,
the sting for sure.
Yeah, the sting of being sent to the minors, right? Yeah. So you go down, you're not down in the dumps about it. You're like, this is great. Go play a bunch.
Exactly. Yeah. And I enjoyed my year in St. John's. It was awesome. So I got to live out east.
And that year you beat Ottawa. They were like President's Trophy winners, right? Like that was a massive upset.
They were the only reason. Like we lost our captain, so Sundin was out. But looking back, and there was a few games during the COVID that they threw like flashback games from that series, and Ed Belfour was unbelievable. Like it was the same year Kipper. It was the same season.
Yeah.
Where Kipper was at lights out. Like Eddie was lights out for us in that first round. We had no business. Like every game was like 1-0, 2-1.
That sounds familiar, right?
But well, we had a good team, but you need that goaltender. Like
Outdoor Dental is dentistry with no needles, no drills, and no stress. Their Solea laser treatment is an excellent solution for people who experience dental phobia. In 1 to 2 minutes, you'll be relaxed, comfortable, pain-free, and back onto your day in minutes. Also, Outdoor Dental does snoring treatments. 2 15-minute sessions can increase the tension in the soft palate in the back of your throat, which reduces snoring. It's non-surgical and pain-free. Again, just 2 15-minute treatments. Outdoor Dental does snoring treatments as well. 2 15-minute sessions can increase the tension of the soft palate, which reduces snoring. It's non-surgical and pain-free. Also at Outdoor Dental, dental implant treatment can be scary for many, confusing, expensive. They use cutting-edge dental technology to ensure you're happy, healthy, and you'll feel confident in your results. Check them out online. It's Dr. Jay Patel at outdoor.dental. Vita Nova is Calgary's lab-grown diamond specialists. They're the only store in Calgary that specializes exclusively in lab-grown diamonds. You know you're getting the largest selection of loose lab-grown diamonds and jewelry in the entire city. Savings from lab-grown diamonds can be as much as 80% off. Visit vinanova.com or check them out in their downtown showroom on the second level of Stephen Avenue Place. What is a lab-grown diamond? Well, lab-grown diamond, simply a diamond that's been grown in a lab. They have the same chemical composition and crystal structure as natural earth-mined diamonds. Due to its identical nature, lab-created diamonds have the same hardness, right refraction, and pretty much the same as a natural diamond. Only difference, they're lab-created and referred to as synthetic because they are chemically and physically the same, but are man-made. Be confident knowing you can save up to 80% compared to mined diamonds pretty much across the board. You want a custom design done? Vita Nova can do that as well. Just give them a few weeks of heads up to complete your custom piece. Find out more at vinanova.com.
Well, it's so cool from a fan's perspective to think 2 weeks earlier, you'd be like, man, I'd love to get a ticket to game one or to round one of the playoffs, except you're on the ice, you're playing. Like it's just wild to think.
Yeah, it was like, and I think the Leafs had a lot of, like, they traded Brad Boyce for Owen Nolan. So their prospect pool kind of opened up around my time too. So that was so me and Alex Steen and Kolyakovo kind of were the young guys, and gave me more of a shot, I think, at a young age to find a spot. But they were still reluctant to keep me. Like, I remember Pat Quinn, like, he liked me. And to make it out of training camp was, I think they put Travis Green on waivers that year to open up a spot for me, a veteran guy, and might be the coach here, who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I think, it was just, everybody's way to the NHL is different. You need things to work out, but you got to take advantage when your chance is there, and then make sure you stick.
It gets lost on a lot of parents, especially, don't realize that, right? You do this, all the above correctly. You don't get through or take the opening when it's there, if you ever even get that opportunity, which is no guarantees. So you need a little bit of luck. When that opening happens, you'd better jump through the door, because it is very quickly being closed by someone else that wants your spot.
Yes. And you could say the same in junior. Just to be the guy in junior, you better take advantage of that opening to establish. Like, when you come in as a 15, 16-year-old in junior, you got to establish yourself and take that opening, and then work your way up to be a top guy, to then get the opportunity to get drafted and do the same thing at the next level. Because we say it all the time. If you go to NHL training camp, or when we're doing our skates before the season, anybody in the AHL, like, their skill level is just as good as the NHL guys. Like, it's, other than like McDavid and the world-class best players, like, their shot, you'll have a guy who skates fast and stands out in those scrimmages. And then you go to training camp, and, you realize when you play the game that the smarts are the difference, the offset, I think, between the AHL and the NHL guys. But the window's small, because there are guys in the AHL that could easily swoop in and establish himself and play well. It's their job.
Put you on the spot. Who's the best player you played with or against that never got a sniff? My D partner won Defenseman of the Year, Chad Allen, didn't get drafted, I think third round to Vancouver, never got a minute.
Like, not one sniff in the NHL? Yeah, that's a tough question. Because I know a lot of guys like would get like, one game,
a little bit here,
a little bit there. But I don't even know who to answer. I didn't, luckily I was only a little bit in the minors, and a lot of the guys got one game with the Leafs that I played with.
What was the media like dealing with the media in Toronto? It's considered the center of the hockey universe, and it's, you can get overwhelmed by it, even from out in Calgary, with how much coverage there is of Leafs. What was it like being there?
Yeah, it's over the top for sure. you're just first, on Sports Center. It's always about the Leafs every day. And every day there's media. Like in Canada, I think it's similar everywhere, but I think Toronto and then Montreal with having the Quebec fans and all that.
Two
Like,
medias.
yes,
French
exactly.
and English, yeah.
You just have way more media in there. And so like, it's crazy how many people are in the room. And I know you'd see it, it's specific times on different teams. Maybe when you're in Toronto, if you're playing in a Stanley Cup or in a big game, there's lots of media, but like it's every day. And a lot of those media, it's local media. So they're trying to get stories and, push buttons and just take different angles on everything. So as a player, you just got to give the answer you want to give. You don't want to be boring, but it's almost a safer way to go.
Well, when you talk every day, it's hard not to get boring. Or it's like, what do you want me to say?
Exactly.
We haven't played in 2 days, and you're asking me the same question. So,
and everybody has an opinion. It's not even, and then the fans there, like they, especially now, even with social media, it's even worse, I bet, because you're dealing with that. So, but everybody has an opinion. You go everywhere, everybody has an opinion. But I think in Calgary, it's just a smaller scale, to tell you the truth. And I feel like the media is pretty fair here and in a lot of ways, but Toronto, it's all it takes is one idiot to just try and make a name for themselves. And there's not just one idiot, though. There's always a bunch of idiots that are trying to do that, and you got to deal with it. And when times are tough, the team's not playing well, it's bad. And you got to just kind of focus in, and it's hard to get as a player there. It's not you're worried about. There's also 23 of your teammates that you hope that they're just focused on the right things, because you can't win in the league when you only have half the guys with the right mindset. So when things go good, you want people to stay, making sure they're still focused, not get too high, because that happens too. The Leafs are winning the cup. They win 3 in a row. We're winning the cup. They're playing the parade. Like we hear that all the time, but it's very much like that. So that's the hardest part, is keeping everybody, on the same page and have the same focus. And it's hard to do with social media and all that, because you can control yourself, but your teammates, you have to trust that they will. And I don't think that ever happens, because you never have 23 guys happy with their ice time or where they're playing or if they're scratched. You're always going to have someone that's not happy.
So Pat Quinn, how did you get on the right side of that guy? He's such a legend, right? You talk about all those veteran players that are in the room. Then there's that guy, overwhelming for a young guy coming in, I would think.
Yeah, he was awesome to me. It took some time, honestly. And Keith Acton was the assistant coach there, and he worked a lot with me. He's the forward coach. So he worked a lot with me, but you just have to get your coach to trust. It's no different. If your coach doesn't trust you, you're not going to play. And when you're a young guy coming in and you have Pat Quinn, who loves his veterans because he can trust them. And, we've had coaches here in Calgary that are the same. So as a young kid, you got to gain their trust. So those first bunch of games, you better be playing the right way and doing things that help gain that trust. And that's all that was. And then he was just a good person too. And he was like that to everybody. He was always asking about family and just very personable, and guys loved playing for him. I don't think he was the most, X's and O's and system wise. Like you had your system, but it was a lot of, the players would have to kind of adjust on their own a bit at times. And, but I think it worked for him. He had a successful career, and he's missed, but that's why he's a legend.
So you're the Toronto guy. We'll talk about the trade to Calgary in a moment, but we see a lot about, Tavares with his Leafs pajamas on, and guys want to go back to Toronto. I mean, you were a Toronto guy drafted by the Leafs. You're playing for the Leafs. Was it everything like it couldn't have been? Was it everything you thought it was going to be? Like you think it's a dream come true, and this is all I could have ever wanted. What was it? What was your experience as a Leaf for a guy from Toronto?
It was a dream come true, because I was a huge Leafs fan growing up. I had a Doug Gilmour jersey, and I got Dougie was on the team when I played my first game. He hurt himself. He came for one game, hurt himself, but he was on the team. So it was a dream come true, like going out and playing at the ACC or whatever it's called now, Scotiabank. But but then it becomes reality. Like the first little bit, and it's like anybody who makes the NHL, you're on adrenaline those first 5-10 games. This is the coolest thing. But then you're like, okay, like this is my job. It's what you've always wanted, and now you got to make sure you make the most of it and stay there. Like, a lot of guys can come in and play good for 5 games, 10 games. It's you want to be a guy that can play for a long time, and then you want to win. Like, so being a Leaf was unbelievable, and it was hard because we just never had success there. When I was there, we had the 1 year, and then it was always, 10th place, and it was always exciting playing big games and playing Montreal and the rivals. But at the same time, when you're a team missing the playoffs, it gets frustrating, and then it weighs on you. And having family around, my family was great, but you still start hearing things, and you just kind of, it just kind of becomes part of your life. I don't even know how to explain it, but it was a dream come true, and I loved every second of it. And at first it was hard to leave, but that's as soon as someone doesn't want you or trades you, then you're like, you get past that pretty quickly, and you're just focused on what you can now.
Hey guys, it's Pinder. Hope you're enjoying our one-on-one with Matt Stajan. It's time to dive into our Betway bet of the day. Going into the futures market here, and why don't we start with baseball? Spencer Strider has been absolutely sensational for the Atlanta Braves this year. He leads the universe in strikeouts. His number for the NL Cy Young on a really good Atlanta team is plus 225. You can more than triple your money. Strider to win the NL Cy Young. I'm all over that one today. For Betway, 19 plus Ontario only. Bet the responsible way. Betway.
There you go. That's going to do it. Segment number 1 with Matt Stajan and Rhett and I sitting down with one of the good guys. Part 2. Blockbuster trade from Hogtown to Cowtown. His life as a Leaf is over. There's some drama on the way, ladies and gentlemen. Here there's something about a stampede in Calgary. Outside of that, the Stajans don't have a whole lot of knowledge about what goes on in Calgary, but they're going to learn. And in some ways they learn the hard way, but that's coming up in part 2. Some ups and downs, and the biggest goal of his career comes in the Saddle Dome. Details on that all coming up. I hope you enjoyed part 1. Tomorrow, part 2. Download it, watch, like, subscribe, all that sort of thing. We'll see you tomorrow on Barn Burner. See you, buddies.